Hey, hello. Welcome to Midwife Mondays. I figured it out. Yay. I'm only 5 minutes late. Oh my God. YouTube does not make this totally intuitive, in my humble opinion. So, anyway, good to be here. Good to see you all, or at least the chat. Showing off my really cool breech mug by Banjo Arts. It lives here at my office because yeah, I don't want anyone at home to get any ideas that they should use it, much less break it. So I've been running, it feels like, since this morning because it is Midwife Monday here. It is the birthday of the week for me. So I'm going to start just like we did last week. For those of you that missed it or weren't here, we're going to take a couple of breaths. I'm going to do it for me. You're going to do it for you, perhaps. Crazy time of night, time of day here. So let's just close our eyes a minute, wherever you're at. Just take a couple of breaths. Into wherever in your body feels good right now, wherever you need it most. Your body usually tells you pretty fast, I found. And just find your feet. I don't have mine on the earth here. I'm sitting on a couch. So I'm going to try and just ground in anyway. And find my center and my calm so that I can share from that solid place, even though today was kind of nuts. Encouraging you to do the same. Just feel into where your body's at and what you're feeling overall, and how you're doing. I feel like that's a question we don't ask ourselves enough, much less the pregnant women we sit with sometimes, just how they're feeling, and not just in a cursory way, but deeply. All right, grab your tea or coffee or whatever you're going to do. And let's start chatting. I wish you were all here in this room. It is big enough for that now. I'm not going to turn the camera around because I'm afraid I'll screw up the connection. But we opened this office up. It was 2 smaller rooms. And Ashley, my student, got the brilliant idea to knock the wall down. So we had someone else do that. But the energy is really nice in here. It's different. And it's been really nice to sit with people in this new space. We also have a free workshop, a free indie birth workshop here this Saturday. And it will be the first, obviously, in this expanded space. So I'm expecting a lot of people. So for anyone that thinks that people don't want to get together right now or won't or whatever, whatever you think the case may be, I can guarantee you that there are people that want to gather. This is a very small town, and people are driving from all sorts of places, as they usually do, to sit and learn about birth and watch birth videos. So I'm super thrilled. I can't wait. And I've redone the workshop, or I'm halfway there. So if any of you have taught the free indie birth workshop in your own town, a lot of our doulas have in the Birth Warrior Project, it's going to be different than that. And I'm really excited to just see how that lands, experiment. I've been doing that old version for, 5 years or something. And it's just time to change it up. The hormones of labor are amazing. And I feel like if people don't know that stuff, then definitely we need to share that. And I will share that, but that's only going to be like a tinier part of the workshop coming up this Saturday. So I'm going to do that and kind of go into some of the other parts that create a powerful birth experience. This isn't necessarily about home birth. I think everyone here would agree that for many of us, that is the way we feel the most powerful. But ultimately, people can and will feel powerful in lots of different places and with different choices. So I'm hoping that this workshop leaves people feeling a little more curious about all of the parts, a little more curious about themselves and the individuality that plays into how we create that in our births. And frankly, a little bit of humility. I think humility is something I want to talk about tonight, as I kind of review the day, and I'll get more into that. But just an honesty about birth, that it's beautiful and wonderful and raw and perfect. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's not hard, and sometimes it's not at all what we thought. And, it's just the mystery. So, how can we talk about the mystery in a workshop in a way that leaves people feeling like they have some concrete tools or things to do? So, that's my challenge for Saturday. I can't say I'm done with it, but I will be. I will be done with it. And it might be last minute, but I'll let you know. Maybe next Monday. I'll review how that went. And if it feels like it was really awesome, then I'm happy to share, the presentation or whatever, and you can do it where you are. So let's see, the day in review. Someone asked on our social just about how my days look. And Monday looks different. So I thought I'd share a little bit about how today has looked. So I decided, and I shared this last time, so bear with me if I'm repeating myself for a couple of you. But I decided that with the new year and that with a new baby, that I was going to just be here in my office for appointments, for prenatals and the 6-week postpartum appointment. I've been driving around for 15 years as a student and then as a midwife, and I'm sort of tired of it. I think it's great, and I don't have no regrets about it, and I might go back to doing that, but right now I need to just be closer to home, and I need to have my own space that I welcome people into and all of that. So the reason I'm sharing that again is that I'm able to consolidate, and I was always able, I just didn't. I can consolidate everybody into one day. So no more, sporadic appointments, because when you're driving to appointments, it takes up a lot of time. And, you can literally do one appointment, but if it's an hour there and an hour back, you get what I'm saying. It really eats into your time in a week. So I've decided to not do that. And so Monday can be the only day really that people, and that feels really good. And I also think it feels, very clear to people too, obviously, that that's when I'm available. That's when we do appointments. And, I haven't had anybody yet that can't make that work in one way or another. So yeah, Monday, hence the Midwife Mondays. So I know there were some questions on the social, and I might take a look over there if I run out of things. But let's see. I started the day just like I normally do, to be honest. I've been trying to stay in bed with Rumi a little bit longer. And he's usually awake at a certain point, and I just like to sit there and do nothing. But it's not nothing. I like to sit there and breathe and do a meditation or, kind of think about the day ahead or feel into how I want to feel for the day, if there's anything special. And today being the midwife day, just kind of grounding myself and being ready to energetically, support other people, which I really haven't been doing the last month or so. It's been all internal, all me, postpartum-y stuff. So taking that step outwards, out of the inner circle, I feel like takes intention, and I want to be ready for it. So we had a nice time just sitting there this morning. I usually just make some hot water. I know that sounds really boring, but I have a teapot in my room and I got lazy. Never put tea bags in there. So I just have some hot water in the morning. But with all the nursing, you kind of can't get enough fluids. So we do that because I feel like once I head into the house, our room is separate in like a little guest house right now. I feel like when I head into the house, it's life. It's kids running around. It's the little girls up and wanting their breakfast and all of that kind of stuff. So I've learned lately that there's no rush in the sense of no reason not to take the 10 or 15 minutes to just sit there and enjoy the quiet. Rumi is still, quiet, not doing much. He's just kind of laying there and doing his little smiling thing, and he's fine to sit there. So that's how I started the day. And I almost always go on a hike, as many of you know. And I still do that on days that I work, but not as long, just because I wanted time to, eat and get ready. So we took a nice walk. And then I was here by about 10:30. And that's also working really well right now. I think as I get busier in the months to come, it might have to be an earlier day to fit everybody in. But right now I can start at 10:30 or 11. And, that's really nice to have the morning and not feel rushed. So the big news for that today for me is that I was trying to figure out what Rumi should do. And when I've driven around in the past with other babies of mine, they come with, obviously. And I would bring a babysitter, and that was a whole other thing. It was like kind of a thing. So I didn't know what it would look like today. I figured if he was sleeping, I would just come and then Jason could bring him because we live like 5 minutes away. But he was up, so I brought him, and he was here for the first appointment. And he did great. I mean, he's super easy. He just nursed and fell asleep on the blanket here for 20 minutes. And then I had Jason come get him. So he was here for half the day, and then he went home for half the day. And that seems to have worked really well because, he's a baby. He needed to go home and sleep. And that's what he's doing right now, sleeping again. So the timing is, has felt good. And I hope that other Mondays will feel as good with him. I'm sure it'll get different feeling as he grows, and, I'll have new ideas or strategies. But the bottom line is he can stay home with his dad on Mondays. And that feels really nice to be able to, completely focus on the person in front of me. I'm really enjoying that. So let's see some themes that came up today. Yeah, just, oh man, where to start without like revealing anybody's personal business. I think there's definitely a theme lately, and possibly always, just depending how it comes up, around pregnant women navigating their own needs, and figuring out what they need, how to ask for it, especially if they don't normally ask, right? Because they feel like self-sufficient or they're really strong. And I think pregnancy being a time of humbling for many women, and I've been there too, where you have to figure out how to get your needs met, and I think that's a huge topic. Partners certainly are part of it. And, I think for the most part, the partners, that I'm coming in contact with along with these women are really supportive. So it's not like they're not trying or not helping. I think on a guy's side, often there is a lack of knowing exactly how to help, even in pregnancy. It's like, oh, she's doing this, what can I do? And especially for first time dads, I feel like there are some very concrete things. So we talked today with one woman about having an actual plan that she shares with her partner around eating, around the needs of a pregnant woman and nutrition, because that's new to pregnant women, most of them. And I guess, how do we expect guys to just know this, especially if we're not communicating? So, with communication and more of a solid plan for that, I feel like that's one just, really obvious way that some of the needs in pregnancy get met. Food can feel so overwhelming. And I was just there, I know. But I've been through it so many times, and Jason is so good at knowing what that looks like for him to help. So, I mean, every partner is probably a little bit different. But anyway, that's some of what we talked about today, is just asking women, what do you need right now? Like, not necessarily what do you need of someone else, even though we are talking about partners being supportive. Like, what do you actually need for yourself? And I think that's a great question to even ask ourselves, self included, when you have that quiet time. Like, what do you actually need? And can you align yourself with your body and your feelings to come up with what that is? The body is so smart. So even people that don't feel super intuitive or connected, just helping them feel what's in their bodies and getting confident listening for an answer, because I really believe the answer is there. And sometimes it's not what we think. So here we are talking about nutrition and, maybe you need more of this, or, what about more calories? And I think that's the role that many of us fill as midwives. But the actual answer has to come from her. And when she sits quietly, the answer to what she needs may be completely different. It might be more of an emotional need. It might be, I don't know, like ways she needs to figure out how to connect with herself, because ultimately nobody can do it for us. So we can have help, we can have support, we can have someone handing us food when we're pregnant, and that's really helpful. But then there's also that element of figuring out as women and as pregnant women how we can meet our own needs in the best way, Not that we should do it alone or be solitary, but like the deepest part of ourselves that is wanting a thing or a feeling, finding what that is. Otherwise, it's very easy to turn outward and just nothing is right and no one can meet any need you have. So on that note, lots of nutrition discussions and kind of like self-care and finding time for yourself. And listening to the body and listening to what those messages might be. So, what comes to mind are some common pregnancy complaints, which I think we've accepted as a culture as pretty normal. And I think it's really up for debate if they are normal or normal for this specific woman or this one. Things like nausea and vomiting, heartburn, digestive things in particular. And while we might have some really great ideas as the midwife to help remedy those situations, I think asking about the emotional side and seeing what is bubbling up in someone, that needs to be seen. And I don't think it's our job to point out necessarily what that is. I think smart, connected women, or even women that are working on that connection, can get the message and be encouraged to get that message. So as far as like a remedy for heartburn, there's a million of them, right? There's a billion of them. And I don't think, anyone is past even looking that stuff up on Google. So what's really going on is my question. And, what are you feeling when that happens? And what's coming up for you? Like literally, what's coming up for you? I think those are way more interesting conversations. And, it doesn't mean that we solve it. I think that's such a huge difference in like philosophy of care is, um, letting some of like the Western medicine stuff that we're all taught, even as midwives, to settle or possibly go away, depending. We always keep it in the back of our minds. And by that, I mean like, the answer, like the remedy to heartburn is, I've totally said those things. We totally should share those things. But again, yeah, the more interesting thing when you're sitting here with people is just figuring out what's going on with them and not figuring it out so you can answer, but understanding their perspective. That's something that is increasingly fascinating to me about sitting with pregnant women and why it never gets old, why it doesn't get boring, because everyone is different. Everyone has a whole lifetime of different stories and experiences and traumas and triumphs. And we simply are here bearing witness to it and hopefully acting as a mirror to whatever she needs to see. So we might see it, we might not see it, but we are hoping that that support will allow her to see what she needs to see. So that's maybe a little out there, but hey, it's Midwife Mondays and it's almost dinner time. So that's what I got. Let's see. If you have questions here, you can totally ask them and I'll see if they kind of go into the flow. Yeah, another interesting conversation today was around free birth. And I find it all fascinating, don't you? Like all of it, like the labels we have for things and I don't know, just people. I find people fascinating, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So talking with some folks about free birth today, and I'm happy to provide, support that feels appropriate to me for people who are choosing free birth. I think it's awesome. I've had free births, but I think there's also a lot of sugarcoating of that whole thing. And so if someone shows up here and they want to talk to me, then I think it's my duty to be as honest as I can. And I don't care what they choose, I think there are two ways, and this probably deserves more thought, but this is where I've come to lately. I think there are kind of two ways that people go about free birth. I'm sure there's more. But just when I'm trying to like understand where people are coming from, where they're coming to me. So on one hand, there's just this totally intuitive approach, right? Like you don't have to know about birth to have a baby. And women that are, just I don't know how to describe it so that it fits everyone because everybody's so different. But there are just some women out there that are like so super confident. They just know themselves so well. They're so sure that this is the path for them. Great, totally, go for it. And then I think there are people that get the idea, and I don't know if this comes from inside of them or, outside of them. They get the idea that to prepare for a free birth, you have to know all the things. So when people come to me, like I said, they're usually not of the first variety because otherwise they would just go do it. They're usually of the second variety where they kind of like want some coaching around what to do if, or, maybe they just want someone to bounce their idea off of. I mean, everyone's different. I don't really know. But that second category is, I think, difficult in the sense of learning all of that before you have a baby. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. But since everybody here is interested in midwifery, I think it is something to think about, because the kind of midwifery that I am always wanting to be better at, and that Margot and I feel like we're, trying to share with the world and create more students and women that feel the same way we do, is not a kind of midwifery that's necessarily like on the map of options, right? Does that make sense? So people that are planning a free birth very naturally think that that's the only way to get what they want. That's the only way to not have somebody like directing them or bossing them or in their space. So I totally understand that. And I think that that variety of midwifery is very present. It's very real. And so, they're just going to do it themselves. So anyway, when people come and they want to talk about free birth, sometimes it feels a little awkward because like, I'm not trying to sell myself to them. I don't care. And honestly, I don't work with everyone. And, I'm not even saying that I would be a good fit. It's just like, have you thought about creating an option that really feels right to you, right? Because if they were like 500% free birth, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be meeting with me. But there's something they're desiring or feeling that they're wanting like either feedback or support on. So yeah, it's hard sometimes to explain that kind of midwifery without having it feel like an advertisement. Although, for most of us that are out there doing this work, there's not a whole lot of people doing the same in where we live. So, there's only so many options. If you do want a midwife that could sit and be with you and not be responding to ridiculous rules and regulations that are on a piece of paper, which of course is what smart people are afraid of. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's also just maybe the way our culture is, like people think that, I don't know, like learning and being ready for something is just so immediate. Like the way we scroll through Instagram and read, 50 posts in a minute, like that mentality of like, well, just tell, I'm here. I want to pay you for a consultation. Like we want to know what to do if we hemorrhage. We want to know. And it's like, exactly, Hillary. I cannot give a midwifery education in one consult, nor would I try. And it's a little insulting, but it's not meant to be. It's just people honestly not understanding what on earth they're even looking for. So I don't know if Margot has shared the story recently. I think she did actually. But yeah, we had someone come a long time ago and they were planning a free birth, and they did, I think, eventually have a free birth, although I could be wrong. I think they transported for a really ridiculous reason, but they didn't know. It was something like the placenta didn't just fly right out. So they went in. But when they were here, the partner in particular was like really intent on getting some like skills out of the meeting. Like he didn't think midwifery school was a thing, I guess. So he wanted to know like how to solve this and how to solve that. And it was a while ago, so I maybe wasn't as bold. Nowadays, I just say to people, I've been a midwife for close to 15 years and I still feel like I know nothing on a lot of days, and there's always more to learn. So I'm sorry, I can't teach you all about that. You could go try to find a course like on neonatal resuscitation, but I don't know what to say. But anyway, so this partner was the one who had all the questions, and I'll just never forget it. They were like about to leave, and they were like, "Oh, thank you. Like we feel so confident." Great, cool. He's like, "So one more thing. What do I do if like a foot pops out?" It's like, I don't know. Call 911, or if you guys feel really great about it, like it's just interesting. So, I think they're great discussions though, and I'm not trying to like belittle anyone that's wanting a free birth. I think it's really cool. And I admired these people today. I think it's really cool to check out all your options and go talk to people. And, I guess I don't know what their intention is necessarily. I don't think if you're really wanting a free birth, then you probably shouldn't care what anyone else thinks. But I don't think it's bad to like make contacts and try to work out what you want. That's what I said to them. Like, you figure out what you want. I'm not saying that I'll be able to, be the one to provide that for you or with you, but you need to figure out what you want. And it's not all or nothing. And you don't have to have a free birth, especially with a first baby, unless that's just 500% what you want and you're ready for it in all the colors and shades that birth comes in. And that was another part of the conversation I thought I'd share, just that humility. I think I mentioned that in the beginning, that humility around birth that I think we all should have. Like, I don't know how your birth will be. I don't know what your lessons are. I don't know what you'll need to know. And, it could be and probably will be great and beautiful and, exactly what you need. So it's just interesting to see people's faces in a way when maybe they haven't considered some of the things that we do know about as people that attend births. And I don't mean, anything horrible or scary, but just variations of normal. So, that's a great reason to have some resources or a person you can call, or, as Margot wrote a blog post years ago, what did she call it? Something like, stop toe dipping already and hire a midwife. That's the truth in some situations. If you are really craving support, and if people are really like feeling stressed out by what they would need to know and, how to solve a hemorrhage, what if I have a shoulder dystocia? You should really think about hiring somebody, because I don't think that's any way to be in your own labor. I don't wish that on anyone. I don't think having midwifery knowledge as a birthing woman has been like the most helpful thing. It's just, that's been my life. So, I didn't get it. I did choose it, I guess. But, there was no going back is what I'm saying. Most of the babies that I've had have been while I was a student or a midwife. So I don't wish that on anyone. I think if you want to remain in sort of like this bliss and not intellectually engage, I say go for it. But I don't know how you do both. And if you're really looking to intellectually engage, I just don't know. I don't know. So that was interesting conversation of the day. And I'm looking forward to, some of these people coming back on Saturday to the free workshop. In a lot of ways, I think that's the absolute best representation of the kind of midwifery care we are providing here to the community, without talking to individual people and like trying to explain, well, I'm not licensed, so I don't have to do this and blah, blah, blah. Just come to the free workshop, which is why we've been offering it so much more. And that gives me the chance to kind of cover all the bases of things I feel like is important and, isn't directed at any one person. It's for the whole room of people. We show some really great birth videos, and they're all just beautiful and unique in their own way. So people usually have questions about that. And I think this time, I've not showed it before, but I think I'm going to show the one video that I talked about on the podcast I did with Christina, who's one of my very good friends. In fact, her husband knocked this wall down for me. So they're very close friends, and we did a podcast recently about her birth story with her daughter, Veda. And that was one of the rare births where something came up, and it was unexpected. And she's beautiful and strong and had already had a baby at home and, does her work. So like, why does this woman get this challenge in her birth? I have no idea. No idea, except that is her path, and I was honored to be her midwife and be her friend. So anyway, we haven't shown that video publicly. Like, I don't really want it, out on Instagram and such. I feel very protective of her, and she did a really kick-ass job of resuscitating her own baby. And yeah, I don't want to expose her to the weirdos out there that would criticize it, because she did great and her baby, totally responded and is beautiful and totally healthy and fine. So I think I'm going to show that video to this group here, because in revamping the workshop, that's definitely a piece I wanted to include, not to scare anyone, but I think there's also just, again, this word humility keeps coming up for me. Like, there's a humbleness around birth. And I think for everybody that's pregnant, they get to decide, like, the ratio. They get to decide the percentage of confidence and the percentage of humility that they need and they want. It's not my job to say that, but I feel like those both need to be presented. And if you don't know, the workshop as it was just about the hormones of labor, although it was really great and fantastic, it's, brilliant information, as we all know, Sarah Buckley's stuff. It left a lot of people feeling like that was all I needed to do. And that might be individual to different communities. Here in Sedona, there's a lot of people that probably do have free births. I don't know. I don't know if, like, the energy of this place just brings those people in. A lot of people are moving here, like record number of people are moving out of California. So anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, I don't know. It's just, that's kind of the demographic, are people that are, somewhat spiritual, and they're open, which is awesome. Like, they're open to a lot of the things that I think are fun to talk about. So I decided that, yeah, talking about the hormones of labor is great, but it's not enough, because so many people over the years have come and, yeah, they kind of misinterpret it. They're like, oh, so if I'm just alone and I just have darkness and, the lights off and all of that, then the hormones will work perfectly. And it's like, if we were, actually cats or dogs, perhaps, but because we're humans and we have a very active brain and a whole culture and, all of these things, yeah, it feels remiss to not talk about some of the other pieces, which I think are really fun. A huge piece that I want to talk about during this workshop, which is new, is just kind of like this internal growth process that I think many pregnant women, not all, many are on. And of course, in a 3-hour workshop, I'm just going to share some ideas and have them go home and they can consider what resonates with them, where maybe they haven't looked, where they've done a really great job looking. So we're just going to be offering some ideas and hopefully just illustrating that birth is not just physical, as we know. That's another thing about the hormones. Like, it's great and it's science-y, right, for people that kind of need proof that our bodies are mammals and that's how we work. But I think there's so many other discussions, that revolve around our emotional and spiritual experience of birth. And, like I said, I can't cover it all here, but the right people always come back, or they'll have questions, or, or they'll just go on their way. I don't really know. So, let's see. It's about 1:45. I think that might be all for me tonight, unless anybody has any questions. Yeah, just all of it, unassisted births and midwifery, and, how to remain open to whatever process someone needs to go to. But I think recognizing that when you're invited in as the midwife, it's no longer an unassisted birth, really. I mean, call it whatever you want, but I'm just saying it does change it. And so I think if people are clear on their options, and then they kind of sometimes quick have to get clear on what they actually want someone there for. What do they see that role as? What do they see a midwife as? Someone that's going to save them, someone that's going to support them. There's all kinds of roles within midwifery that people might ask us to fill. So I think also, having our own boundaries around that and just really sitting with if that feels right for us and how we want to navigate that. So I think that's it. I don't even remember some of the questions on our social, but hopefully this will be a regular thing. So feel free to let me know what you're thinking about. And I know someone asked about sharing my journey into midwifery and, just like how that happened, like how it worked to do the apprenticeships and to get it all done, so to speak. And I'm happy to do that. Maybe next time would be a good time, since it's sort of a long conversation. And I know many of you have read our book or are reading it. So that's kind of like, the brief story of just giving back the license and all of that. And, it's like a birth story, honestly. It's like every time I talk about it, it kind of comes out differently. But I totally love those conversations too. And I'm really grateful to have kind of like been on somewhat of a windy path, getting into it and figuring out how I wanted to do it. So, that's a topic for another day. But I think it's something to consider for those of you listening and considering a path to midwifery, or maybe you're already on it, is just really feeling into how you want to feel doing this work. And if someone had said that to me, 10, 12 years ago, it might have been really helpful. I don't know. I might have still done the same thing. And I'm actually glad for the way it went. I really don't have any regrets. It was one of my hugest, just all around life lessons about going after something that you're not quite aligned with. I mean, I'm aligned with midwifery, but I wasn't aligned with going the licensing route, but I did it anyway. And how that works out. I mean, I think it's a really powerful testament to our own inner fire, We kind of can't pretend big things like that. Yeah. Yeah, and it is a journey, Laurel. I think, that really is a perfect word. It is an absolutely perfect word. I don't know if people in other, professions would talk about their road to whatever they do in the same way that I feel like many of us do with midwifery, because it is a calling in whatever way you're called. It's not something I think you just hear about and, it's on a list somewhere, like being a doctor or being a teacher. You kind of have to go out of your way or receive the message from somewhere. And I never in a million years thought that I would do anything of this sort. So listening to that is important. And then being open to how the details might play out for you, being open to timing, and I think really just asking. So I think I'll leave it there, but start asking, ask those questions of the universe. Ask what you need to know next or what your next step is, and just be open to what you hear. It's so much like birth, so much like being pregnant or birth or mothering. So if any of those things are already a path you're on, then you've been there and it's not that different. All right. Well, thanks for listening to me ramble. I'm going to get home to my baby here, and I look forward to seeing you all here if you can next week or the week after or whatever. And we'll just kind of keep going with this as long as it feels good and there are things to talk about, and people are interested. And to answer your question, the workshop is not online. I'm going to keep it just local here. It's really hard to coordinate the technology, to be frank. Yeah, but who knows? Maybe we'll offer it online sometime soon. Margot and I both. Be fun to teach it with her. I always miss that she's not here with me. So when we get the chance to do it online together, we will. And maybe we'll share. All right. Love to you all. Have a beautiful rest of your evening and have a great week. I'll see you next week.